In this tutorial series, I'll be focusing on loading levels and playing cutscenes, and I will divide this into two parts. So the first part is going to be focusing on how we can load our levels and what is involved whenever we load our levels, and the second part will be focusing on how we can load our cutscenes. So I've added some small tweaks that makes it look a little more smooth whenever we load a new level. So when we load a level, it will actually fade to black, and then would start fading to clear again after that, so it fades in and out when we transition between the different levels. And we can of course change the rate of how fast this fading is going to happen. So if I play my level here, you'll see that it is faded to black and then fades into the clear color here, so I can see what's going on. I've set the scene up very simply, so if I go into the green box, it will reload my level. If I go into the yellow box here, it will load the next level, and if I go into the red box, it will load my main menu. So right now my current scene is my main menu. All my scenes are identical. The only difference is the text written here on the screen. So for demonstration purposes, I didn't need to make a main menu, for example. So if I go into the green box here, you'll see that my scene is reloaded and I'm still in the main menu. If I, on the other hand, go to the yellow box here, it will load the next level. So now I'm in level 1. And if I go to the yellow box again, it will load level 2, and level 2 has a cutscene playing when it opens up. It's not a fancy cutscene or anything, it's just me recording some random things I'm doing here with the boxes. So it's a very bad quality movie, but you can always record a high quality movie and better resolution and everything. But this is just an example of how it's gonna work. So now I would run into the box number 2 and go into level 2, and now there's a little cutscene playing here where I'm running around and pushing the boxes around, as you can see. And I've also added functionality so that I can press escape, and when I press escape, well, then the cutscene is cut out, so that I can play my game if I don't want to watch the whole cutscene or the cinematic or whatever you will call it. And as you can see, I can go to the red box here and load my main menu again. So this is what those two tutorials here are going to focus on. So before we start the actual tutorial, we would need to set up our scene. So you can either follow along here and set up the exact same scene as I have, or you can open your own project and then try to incorporate this tutorial into it. So if you want to set up the same scene as I have, well, then you need to click Create, go to 3D Object and click Cube, because we need something to run around on so our player can move from level to level. And this cube is going to be our ground, so click on it and press F2 and then rename it to ground. You would also need to make this the correct size, so select this tool and then squeeze the cube, change the angle to top view so that you can actually make it a little larger in the width here. Yeah, that should be fine. When you've done that, you would need to add some color to it so that you can distinguish it from the player, for example, if the player is going to be white. So we're going to add some materials, and we can do that by going to our asset folder, right clicking, pressing create, and then create a new folder called materials. Then you have to double click on that folder to get into the material folder, and then right click again, click create, and then you're going to find material. And this material is going to be named ground. Here you can change the color. If you click on the material here in the inspector, you should be able to change the color. If your Unity doesn't look like this, it's because you don't have Unity 5. I will not be using any functionality from Unity 5 in this tutorial, so you can as well follow along in Unity 4 if that's what you want. So click on the field with the color on it, and then change the color to something else than white, for example light brownish orangey one. And when you've done that, you take this material and you just drag it onto your ground here. When we've done that, we need to create a player, so click create, go to 3D object and click on cube. And this cube is going to be our player, so just as before we're going to press F2 and rename it to player. And I'm just going to keep the white color on my player for now. After that, we can create our portals for changing levels. We could go to the main menu or next level, or go to a specific level. So click on your player and duplicate. Just move the cube to the side and click on that one and duplicate and move it to the side, and you can click on that one again and duplicate. So now you have 3 cubes, and just line them up in front of the player like this so that we can move into them, because we're not going to make any fancy movement script or anything. We're simply going to test level loading and setting up that functionality, so we're not going to focus on the player's movement. So these 3 cubes need some names. The third one could need them to reload. The middle one could be next level, and the third one could be specific. So now we have reload, we have next level next to it, and then we have the specific level to the far right. So we also need to add some colors to these 3 levels. So go to your materials folder and create 3 materials. And you can just click on one of them and press Ctrl D to duplicate them. So first one is going to be reload, next one is going to be next, and the last one is going to be specific. Then you need to click on them to set the correct colors. Well, next could be that yellow orangey one, and reload could be green, and specific could be red. And then you simply just need to apply the materials to the correct objects by dragging it from your materials folder into the scene hierarchy. And I needed specific. There we go. So now we have 3 blocks here. One more thing we need is that we need to click on these 3 objects here and set them to trigger, so that whenever our player runs into them, we can trigger them so that we can load a specific level. We also need to set up the player, so the player needs a collider on it, and we need to put a rigid body on it, so that we can actually so we can actually interact through collision on these 3 boxes. Besides that, we also need to set up some text on the screen so that we know which scene we are in, because the thing that is going to distinguish, going to make the scenes different, is because is the text in the middle of the screen. I'm not going to change anything from scene to scene. The only thing I'm going to change is the text that says what scene we are in at the moment. So to add the text, we should click on create, go to UI, and then select text. And this canvas we're just going to name status canvas. And the text here we can write main menu, for example, to say that we're in the main menu. Just going to move this up so we can see it, middle of the screen. And then we're going to change the font size here by clicking on the text, going to the inspector, change the font size to maybe 20 or something, and then make it bold. This doesn't need to look fancy or anything, just need to be written in the middle of the screen so that you can see where you are. When you've done that, we need to put the camera on the player so that the camera will follow the player. So find your main camera and then move it towards the player here. And you can also move it a little up, and then select the rotate tool and rotate a little down so that you can see your player. When you have put it in the right position, then just take the camera and put it as a child object of the player by dragging it from the hierarchy to the player object. We don't need to make any script for following the player here, because we're not going to do anything fancy. We're just going to make it follow the player easily. The player's not going to roll around or anything, so we're not going to get any problems there. So now we have actually set up our scene, and we should be ready to actually start coding something. So first of all, we need our player to move around. So go to your asset folder, right click, click create, and then make a new folder called scripts. And this folder is going to contain all our scripts, so double click on it, right click, create, and then select C# script or any other script that you would prefer. When you've done that, you need to name the script, and you can just call it player. Double click on the script to open it, and when your script is open, you need to add some speed to it, because we're just going to make some very simple movement in this script. This tutorial is not going to focus on movement, so I'm just going to do this very quickly. So public float speed is for the player to move around, and then we have our handle movement function called public actual private void handle movement, and this is going to be calculate our player's movement. So we're going to make a translation that we need to apply to the player so that we can move him. So float translation equals speed multiplied by time dot delta time, and this basically takes our speed and multiply it by the time, so that our player's translation will be frame rate independent whenever we move him around. And then we need to set the transform of the player so that we can actually see that he's moving in the game. So transform the translate, new vector 3, input dot get axis horizontal as the horizontal part, multiplied by translation to apply the translation, comma, and the y we don't need to up, so we're just going to put 0, input dot get axis vertical, and we're going to multiply it with the translation again. And as stated before, this is not a movement tutorial, so I'm just going to write this real quick. So now we have the functionality for moving the player, and we're just going to call it an update like this by saying handle movement. So now our player should be able to move around whenever we give him a speed. So save this and jump back into Unity, go to the player, click on add component, write player, click on the script, and the player should be added to your new player object. So to give him some speed, we can just write 10 here to make sure that he can move around. Play our game. We should be able to move our player back and forth and from side to side. And as you can see, we have these 3 boxes that we can go into to load the levels. So we need to create a script that handles this loading of levels, and I'm going to take it from one minute to another, so it's going to be very easy for you to understand. So first of all, you can load your levels in different ways. You can either give it the name of the level that you want to load, or you can give it the index of the level that you want to load, or you can just add one to the level so that you go to the next level, for example. So to do this, we need to add new script. So click on your script folder here, right click, and then add your preferred script, and then write the name of the script that you want to create. I'm going to go with level handler. When you've added that, double click on it to open it. So I'm going to make some simple functionality here so that you can see how we can load our levels. If we go to Unity and go to File and say Save Scene, well, then we can save our scene. So create a new folder here called Scenes, and then go into it and then save your scene. So we're going to make our scene called Main Menu. So this is our main menu scene. Then we're going to create our level 1 scene and our level 2 scene. So go to your status canvas, go to text, and change the text to level 1. And then you're just going to save your scene. Save scene as, go to scenes, and then write level 1. And then you're going to change the text to level 2. And then you're going to go to scenes again. Save scene as, scenes, and then you're going to write level 2. So now we have all your scenes. So before we can load our scene, we need to add them to the builds. Because if you don't have the scenes in the build settings, well, then you won't be able to load them. So go to your file, go to build settings, and as you can see here, the scenes are already been added here. Usually it doesn't add these, or it doesn't always add these. Maybe it's something new in Unity 5, but I've tried sometimes in Unity 4 that it doesn't add the scenes by itself. So if you don't have your scenes here, you need to either click add current or go to your scenes folder here and select them, and then just drag them into this build settings here. And as you can see, I just added them again, because you need all these scenes in here. So we can load these scenes different ways. We can either take the index out here. So if I want to load my main menu, I can load index 0. If I want to load level 1, I can load index 1, for example, or I can go for the name here. So now we have our scene saved, so we can jump into our new loading script here and start writing some code. So I want to create a function in this level loader for each way we can load the scene. Or yeah, let's see, I can show you here. We're going to make a public void load next level. So this function is basically going to load the next level for us. And the way that you can reach the level loading is by saying application dot load level. This loads a level in our game. Then open the function, and then we need to give it the index. So we can either just take our own level and +1, because right now, for example, if we are in the main menu, well, then our index is 0, and we just need to load the level with index 1. So to do that, we can say application dot loaded level +1. So what this does is that it takes and loads the application's loaded level, which is the index of the current one, which is 0, +1, so I load the next one. So if we save this, then we can go to update, for example, and just make a simple function here before we do it from our player. Make an if statement as if input.getKey down equals keycode.n. So if we press N, well, then we're gonna load our next level. So load next level. When you've done that, you can save your script and jump back into Unity. And in here you need to apply this script to a game object so that it works. And I'm just gonna create a new empty game object and call it level handler. So click on create, go to 3D object, and click on empty, of course, and then rename this object to level handler. When you've done that, you can add the script to it by clicking on level handler, click add component, and then write level. And now the component or the script has been added to the level handler. So this means that if I open my game now and press N, it should load the next level. If you're not in the main menu scene, well, then just go to your scenes folder here and double click on the main menu. So to switch the scene, we need to press the N button to load the next scene. So if I'm in my main menu and I press N, it loads the next scene. So to make sure that we can load the next scene and the next scene as well, then we need to set up the next scene because we need the level handler in each and every scene. So the easiest way of doing this is to create a new folder, click create, and call it prefabs. And then we just go into that folder and drag our level handler into the folder. So we have a prefab of this. So we need to go to the other scenes. Let's go to level 1, and we need to add the level handler to that, like this. And then we need to go to scenes level 2 and save the level 1. Go to prefab and add the level handler here. And then you can just double click on the scene to save it. So now it's saved. So if you notice something before, that it becomes more dark, and this is only if you have Unity 5, because there is, as far as I know, a bug in Unity 5. Whenever you load a scene, it changes the lighting. So let's say I'm in main menu and I load the next level, you'll see that it actually becomes way darker. And it has something to do with the lighting settings. I'm pretty sure it's a bug, and I guess they'll fix it soon. So if you're annoyed about this, you can simply go to Window and then go to Lighting, and in here there is a skybox, and you can basically just click on the skybox here, and then you can select None, And as you can see, the lighting changes to what you just saw before. And if you want it a little lighter, you can change the ambient color here, and you can just make it a little light, just like this. So if I try again to play my game, I would be in the main menu, and if I press N, I'll still go to the next one. Yeah, okay, because it needs to be set up in each scene, of course. So I would need to go to each scene and setting the lighting settings. So if I go to level 1, save, window, lighting settings, change the skybox, of course, and then change the ambient color to something lighter. And then I need to go to level 2 and do the exact same thing. Move the skybox and then change the ambient color. You can also change the ambient source here, but I'm just gonna keep it as it is. So there might be a little difference between the different scenes now. If you're not satisfied with it, you can just open the main menu and then remake the scenes, but I don't care about the little difference here. So let's try again. Go to main menu, press N, load the next level. Now I'm level 1, press N, now I'm in level 2. So if I press N again, I'll get an exception here, because level 3 could not be loaded because it has not been added to the build settings, because I'm trying to load a scene that doesn't exist right now. And to avoid that little bug, we need to make a simple if statement. So we need to go to our load next level and make an if statement. So if application.loaded level is less than application.level count -1. So what this if statement does is that it makes sure that I can't load a level that goes over the bounds of the amount of levels I have, because if the loaded level is less than the level count -1, well, then I'm allowed to go one up. But if I'm at the last level, well, then the loaded level isn't gonna be less than the level count -1. So if I save this, go back to Unity, play my game again, main menu, level 1, level 2, and I press N now, nothing happens because I can't load a level that is higher than the maximum level I have. So now we can make the function for reloading the same level. If you are in your game and you want to restart it, well, then it's very handy to be able to reload it. So we can say public void reload level. And in here we're basically going to say application.load level, and then we're going to give it the application.loaded level. So now we don't add 1 to it, we just load the exact same level. And we can go up here, copy in this and paste it, and then change the button to R. So if I save this, go back into my game, can see that if I press R, it's gonna reload. Sorry, of course we need to go back into our script, and we need to call the right function, because right now on R we also calling load next level. So go in here, if you didn't already see it before I saved, and call reload level in the R. Okay, so now we are loading next level on N, and we're loading the same level on R. So save again, jump into your game, and as you can see, it reloads the same level when you press R. So this could be some kind of restart. If you fall off the edge, you can just press R to restart. So, and as you can see, if I go to level 1 and do the same thing, it reloads level 1. So now we can try to load a specific level, and we can either load that level by giving it the index here or the name of the level. So let's try that. So we're going to make a new function here called public void load specific. And that load specific function needs to take in some kind of index or something. So let's go with the index first. So you're going to make an integer, and we're going to call it index, and then you can say application.load level, and then say index, and this is going to load the index here. So we can make another function called load specific. So public void load specific, and then we're going to get a string called name application dot load level name. So this function is going to load the specific scene by name. So if I would go here, let's say I can say if input dot get key down key code dot h, for example, or something. Well, if it's h, then I wanna say load specific, and as you can see, I made two functions here with the same name, but the difference between them is the parameters. So when I do this load specific and open the parentheses here, you'll see that I can either give it an index or I can give it a string name to load the specific level. Right now I can say I want to load main menu on H, and then I can copy this and say on G I want to load the one with index 2, for example, to load level 2. So I'm calling the same function with different parameters here. So let's save and see if this works. Open our script. So if I press, let's just go to the next level first. So if I press H, it loads my main menu, and if I press G, it loads my level 2. So these were only examples. We're gonna use it for something better now from our player. Because inside our player we need to load the correct level when we enter one of those boxes. So basically all this functionality here in update can be deleted because we don't need it. This is only for testing. We need to call these functions here from our player. So if you save and jump into your player script, then we need to add some functionality for collision. So in our player we need to go to the bottom of our script, and in here we need to write public void on trigger enter, and that takes a collider and just call it other. So in here we need to focus on or change our functionality depending on which box we just hit. The thing is that on trigger enter is called whenever you enter a trigger. So whenever the player enters a trigger, this function is going to be called, and the collider is going to be equal to the object we just hit. So if you look here, we have on reload, for example, we have a box collider and it's set as a trigger here, and that's why when our player enters, when our player does like this, boom, this function is going to be called in the script so that we can actually do something here and react on it. We're going to make a switch case, and then we're going to switch on other.name. So a switch case is just a flow control that does something depending on the variable up here. So if other.name is, let's say, case next, well, then we need to load the next level. So we need to set up cases here for every possible outcome. So case next, and case reload, and case was in the main menu or something. Okay. So this looks on, well, I just hit another object, and that object is other, and I can refer to it from this variable here called other. And then I'm going to look at other.name. If the name is next, I'm going to load the next level. If the name is reload, I'm going to reload my level. And if the name is main menu, I'm going to jump to the main menu. So reload next, and we called it specific instead of reload. So I should go in here and change main menu to specific, and then save it. So right now I need to access the variables here from my level handler, and I can do that by making a singleton. So right now I want to be able to go to my player here and say level handler dot, and then I want to be able to access load next level, for example. So to do that I need to make it visible for my player. So I can do that by making a private static level handler, and then I'm gonna call it instance, and I'm gonna make a property to access this. You can either right click on it, press refactor and encapsulate field and press OK if you have Visual Studio. If you don't, then you can just simply write this code by yourself. So we don't need the set part, and we need to make some if statement here. So inside our instance, we're going to say if instance equals null. Well, then we need to say instance equals GameObject.find of type, here we go, level handler, and then we return our instance. So what this actually does is that it creates an instance here, instance variable of the same type, and then we make a property here that is called level handler instance, so we can access it through instance. And then we check if this instance here already is null. If it's null, well, then we need to set it by finding the game object in our world with the level handler on it, which is actually this game object here that has the level handler on it. So we get a reference to the script here. When you have this reference, we'll then return the instance. So the reason this is static is because I want to access it from the outside. Let's say I delete this and make it non-static. Well, then if I would jump into my code here, I wouldn't be able to say level handler dot and find it. But because these are actually static, well, then I'm able to go in and access this on the class level by saying level handler dot instance. As you can see here, it's here because it's static. And then I can say load next level. So now I called the load next level function from my player. And I need to do the exact same thing down here. Level handler dot load, instance dot load reload level, so of course. There it is. So here I'm reloading the level, and then I need to find the specific, so level handler dot load instance dot load specific, and then I can give it a name or an index. I'm just going to load my main menu when I load the specific. So if I save this and go back into my game, then this should actually work now because I have my reload next to specific. So let's see. If I go into this one, it reloads my level. If I go into the yellow one, I go to the next level, and I should be able to jump back to my main menu here. Yes, 1, level 2, and now I can't do anymore because I'm at the maximum. So that was the part about loading levels. The next thing we're going to look at is how we can actually fade to black when we load a level, because right now it doesn't look very smooth because it just jumps back in position whenever we load a level. We want it to fade to black and then fade in out again. Thanks for watching part 1 of my tutorial, and as always, you can always support me by buying the projects from the video description below. You can also support me another way now by becoming a Patreon, and if you become a Patreon, well, then you'll receive every single project that I've ever made, and you will also receive every single project that I'm gonna make in the future. So you can read more about this from the link in the video description below.